Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really going to get into the experiences of women business owners who are taking a more holistic, more relational path in their work.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be exploring how, focusing on personal growth and really building genuine connections can actually fuel taking like aligned action in your business.
That's right. And we've been looking at discussions from what was called a feminine business circle. It's this space where, well, collaboration and intuition are really central.
hmm It offers a bit of a contrast to maybe more traditional ways of doing business. We've seen transcripts where participants shared their dreams, their challenges, and those, light bulb moments.
And what's special today is we'll hear insights directly from the facilitator of that circle that's you, sharing some of the principles you taught.
Yes, happy to share that perspective.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. If you're a woman entrepreneur and you feel that pull towards building something really meaningful, something that aligns with your values, and frankly, your well-being,
And fosters those strong connections.
then this deep dive is definitely for you. We're going to explore how these maybe softer elements aren't just nice to haves, they're actually integral to success.
Absolutely. They're foundational. And it's interesting. One session kicked off with me asking everyone about their secret dream jobs or talents, maybe something from childhood.
That's fascinating, like digging up buried treasure.
Exactly. It's about uncovering those maybe forgotten passions that might hold clues for today.
Right, and some really interesting things came up, didn't they? Like someone who dreamed of being a talk show host because she lived pop culture.
And another in Switzerland who wanted to be a singer or dancer, and someone else wanting to bring more of their sort of artistic side into their current work.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does. So for you listening, what are your old dreams? Even if they seem totally unrelated now, could they be hinting at something? A direction, maybe.
A hidden talent or just a core value. It adds such richness. Now, another big theme that kept coming up was connection, community.
Oh, huge. Participants constantly talked about the value of the group. Someone called it a supportive coven, a place to bring their power together.
That's a powerful image. A coven, mutual empowerment.
Yeah. And it wasn't just new connections. Some already knew each other from like a previous course. So those existing bonds were important too.
Right, building on what's already there. And someone else just wanted to be there for the others. That really speaks to the relational aspect, doesn't it?
It really does. And one woman mentioned accountability and support as key things she got out of it.
So it makes you ask yourself, right, how are you cultivating supportive relationships on your business journey? Where can you find or, build your own circle?
Because you really don't have to go it alone. That's a core message.
Definitely. Now, shifting focus a bit inward, the group also spent time on the being part, the internal stuff, beliefs, assumptions.
Yes. I guided them to look at the promises and expectations they had around their work, often things they weren't even aware of.
And someone shared feeling like a newborn.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful metaphor for that kind of personal transformation.
It really is. It signifies deep change. Another person wanted to reconnect with her core self, be open to what comes up. That's pure being.
Totally. The foundation before the action.
And I often shared how our personal stories shape our reality. I used my own example with a frustrating car situation. I realized my belief that things like that always went wrong for me was actually, well, making it worse. It was hindering things.
Wow. So your internal narrative was actually creating roadblocks.
Pretty much. It shows how those stories can hold us back without us even realizing it.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical for listeners. What stories might be running in the background for you? What might be subtly limiting your business?
And how could you start to shift those? To rewrite them, maybe.
It highlights that the inner work, the being, isn't separate from the doing. They're totally connected.
Deeply intertwined. And building on that, we explored balance and managing energy.
Yes. You led an exercise looking at different life areas, work, family, health, money, spirit, all of it.
And the key idea is it's all energy. How are we directing our energy?
Right. And volunteering came up as an interesting example.
Yeah, it's energy out, but the reward, the positive feeling is huge energy back. It shows that give and take.
Absolutely. And a big takeaway was just picking one area to bring more balance to in the next week. Just one small thing.
Maybe it's having a tough conversation, stopping something that trains you, or just, adopting a new perspective.
So for you listening, where do you feel out of balance right now? And what's one tiny step you could take this week to nudge things back towards harmony?
Because nurturing your being, your energy, that's what sustains the doing.
It really does. And linked to that, you discussed morning routines, grounding practices.
Yeah, we talked about how a morning ritual, even a short one, can set your intention and energy for the whole day. It's powerful.
Someone mentioned morning pages, right? From The Artist's Way.
Yes, as a way to just dump thoughts, clear the decks mentally, free up that energy.
That sounds really useful. And you emphasize it's not about a rigid formula, is it?
Not at all. It's finding what works for you each morning. Maybe writing, maybe a walk, maybe just sitting quietly. Turning into what you need that day.
Right. And someone else mentioned a program with, like, short mindfulness exercises, accessible things.
Exactly. Even brief moments of grounding make a difference.
So thinking about your ideal morning, what would that look like? What simple practice could help you feel more centered starting your business day?
Starting from that place of inner calm.
Yeah. Now, another really interesting area was navigating transitions. That sometimes tricky space between phases, between the being and the doing.
One participant described feeling sort of in and out emotionally during a big change. She felt she needed something in between, not just thinking, not just acting.
And that led to this idea of dancing between the being and the doing.
Yes. Approaching change with more fluidity, allowing for reflection and action, moving between them, like shifting gears, sometimes neutral, sometimes driving.
That makes a lot of sense.
So if you're in a transition now, business, personal, whatever, how can you create that in-between space? How can you find a rhythm that honors both reflection and moving forward?
Yeah, giving yourself permission for that space is important. Then the conversation moved towards nourishment and not just food, right?
Right. Mind, body, spirit, and how that connects to intuition and taking aligned action.
One participant had this wonderful philosophy of nourishing herself first, and then just seeing what projects or ideas naturally come out, trusting the flow without fear.
It's a very intuitive, trusting approach. She also talked about creating space during the day, refreshing her energy to stay present.
Okay, so questions for you listening. How are you nourishing yourself right now? Are you tuning into your intuition? Do your actions feel truly aligned?
Because self-care isn't fluff. It's fundamental for sustainable energy and good decisions.
Absolutely. You also led a visualization exercise about imagining their ideal utopia.
Yes, imagining their perfect world, personally and professionally. And some really interesting themes emerged across the group.
I remember reading about that. Lots of, like, green landscapes, lushness.
Yes, and joy, playfulness, abundance. Community and partnership were big too.
Wow.
So what does your ideal business and life look like, feel like? What elements resonate from what others envisioned? Visualization is potent. It clarifies intention.
It really helps make it concrete. Another discussion I found really touching was about reconnecting with people.
Ah, yes. I gave them an assignment. Identify someone in their wider circle, their far orbit, who they genuinely wanted to catch up with. But crucially, with no agenda, just connection for connection's sake.
And people found that really rewarding, didn't they? Like a simple, lovely reminder.
They did. It fostered real warmth.
So who in your network could you reach out to? Just a simple, genuine check-in. What could that offer?
It really reinforces that business is relational. It's about people.
Definitely. Then you shifted to strengths, but also the shadow side, the saboteurs.
Right. The idea that strengths, when overused or maybe used in a long situation, can actually work against us, become weaknesses.
Someone mentioned Shirzad Shamin's work and cultivating your inner sage.
Yes, tapping into that wiser part of yourself through pausing, self-awareness. I pointed out how even a value like responsibility can backfire if you try to be responsible for everyone.
Oh, yeah. Burnout City.
Exactly. We also talked about defining your strengths for yourself. What does that strength actually look like in action for you that helps you see when it might be going too far?
Okay, so thinking about your strengths, what are they? And can you see times they might, maybe inadvertently, trip you up?
And how can you build that self-awareness muscle to navigate those saboteurs? It's about knowing your internal landscape.
Yeah, really knowing yourself. You also touched on offering services, the practical side.
Yes, I advise focusing first on the passion, the what you love offering, and the when, the timing that feels right. Not getting bogged down initially with the who or how.
Just starting with a core passion and timing.
Because genuine passion is magnetic. It tends to attract the right people anyway.
So what are you truly passionate about offering and what feels like the right time? Trusting that pull.
Trust the spark.
And finally, there was this great point about authenticity versus perfection.
Yes. I noticed that some of the best, most authentic videos participants made were the ones done quickly, maybe under deadline pressure,
Yeah.
less overthinking.
Huh. Isn't that always the way the imperfections made them more real?
Exactly. More relatable.
Such a good reminder.
Yeah.
Where are you holding back because you're waiting for perfect?
Yeah.
What would it feel like to just be more authentic, let it be good enough?
Because vulnerability often creates the strongest connections. And then wrapping up, you talked about collaborative marketing.
Yeah, what one participant suggested a panel discussion on my YouTube channel, a way to collaborate, cross-promote, kind of a softer approach than some traditional marketing.
Right. And I just underscored the value of that kind of collaboration, inviting community in ways that feel good and aligned.
So maybe thinking about how you could bring more collaboration into your marketing.
Building with people, not just selling to them.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
let's pull together the threads. Personal growth, connection, balancing being and doing, understanding energy, knowing your strengths and saboteurs, embracing authenticity. These aren't just fuzzy concepts. They are like powerful drivers for success, especially for women building businesses with heart.
Absolutely. And the big message, you don't have to do it alone. Community and nurturing yourself are crucial. They're not optional extras.
So true.
So as you go forward, maybe consider this. How could intentionally weaving your well-being and genuine connection into the actual fabric of your business unlock new possibilities? Create something more fulfilling, more sustainable? That's a powerful question.
And maybe, what's one small experiment you could try this week? Just one thing to explore this connection between your inner world and your business success.